to read between the lines. Got to read between the lines. Well, the truth is very simple, very hard to find.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's Going On. I'm your host, Tom D'Ambra. As always, we're very thankful you take the time from your busy day to view our program. I would like to say, first of all, it's great to be back at the studio here in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, KATV. I would like to thank, again, Jamie and all the staff at KATV for being patient and providing their off-station equipment for us so that during my illness we could bring updated information to you. And I would also like to thank Bill and Stanley particularly for all their efforts in traveling, the extra travel that had to be done, all the extra work that had to be done, all the off-site preparation work that had to be done. I thank you, Stanley and Bill, very, very, very much. And I also would like to thank the good people at the Starshoe Chalet that let us use their facility, and it was just great to be there, and the energy there was fantastic. And of course, viewers, I'd like to thank you for your patience during my illness. I am feeling much better, and I thank you all so much. Some of you actually hunted me down to find out what was going on with me. I would like to thank Sid. I'd like to thank Larry and Liz, particularly Larry and Liz, for your generous gift to me and my family. I thank you all very, very much. A lot going on in the world, my friends, some of it good, some of it not so good. And we're going to start off here reading one of my favorite authors. He's actually has passed. His name is Hunter S. Thompson. But this is from the website Patriot Rising. And this is Hunter S. Thompson. The main problem in any democracy is that the crowd pleasers are generally brainless swine who can go out on a stage and whoop their supporters into an orgastic frenzy, then go back to the office and sell every one of them poor bastards down the tube for a nickel apiece. And that, my friends, is exactly what the election process is about. Mr. Bernie Sanders is getting a very, very good lesson, and I feel bad for the man. I do not agree with a lot of his subject. I do agree with some of it. I'm very proud that he was the only senator and one of the few in the entire country that actually signed on to audit the Fed. I am very happy about Bernie Sanders' public statements against the international bankers that he has made. And he was also one of the few signers that tried to get the Glass-Steagall Act back into play. So I don't agree a lot with what Mr. Sanders portrays. I don't like his politics, as they say, but he is certainly getting a lesson to the fact that this facade that we see, this whole electoral process is exactly that. It is a facade. On the other end of the game, you would think the Republican Party would be elated that they have finally come up with a candidate, the first one since 1980, that has just an overwhelming support of the people. That's not the case, is it? I'm going to tell you why. That you would think the Republican Party would be joyous over this, but they're not. And the reason why they are not, my friends, is because that front runner, Mr. Donald Trump, is not someone they control. They cannot control him with bad baggage. They cannot control him with skeletons in the closet. They cannot control his purse strings, and they cannot control his funding for his campaign. He does not need them. They are in a panic over this. They are very, very unhappy. We have had people from Davao, we have had even the Koch brothers here now, 3 days ago, giving $75 million to boost up Rubio because they want Rubio to be their puppet. $75 million. Why do you write a check to $75 million against your front runner of your party if that's the perception? Why? Because they do not control Mr. Trump. They do not like what he has to say. He has come out and talked about some of the events of 9/11. He has come out and talked about, to a slight degree, the money system, or as I like to say, the lack of a money system. So, as we know recently in Iowa, that unbelievably so, a 1 in 64,000th of a chance for it to happen, that they had to settle some precincts out in Iowa with coin tosses, and Hillary Clinton won all 6. That's right, Hillary Clinton won 6 coin tosses in a row. The odds of that are 1 in 64,000, and I say, my friends, not very, very good odds. But Hillary Clinton, besides all of the baggage she has, besides all the skeletons in her closet, and it's a long one, it is a full one, and that baggage, my friends, you and I couldn't carry. But what is it about Mrs. Hillary Clinton? She has been a puppet to the bankers from day one, from the Rose Law Firm on, from the 2 kids that were killed because they witnessed what was going on in Mena, Arkansas, to what was going on, all the drug running in Mena, Arkansas, to Vince Foster's death, to Barry Seals. I mean, it goes on and goes on and goes on. Her baggage is incredible. Why do they want her in? Because they control her. Do you remember when she was Secretary of State in the Council on Foreign Relations, which Rush Limbaugh says doesn't exist, when they built their office down in Washington, D.C., their headquarters out in New York City, of course, because that's where all our marching orders come from, New York City, the bankers. What did Hillary Clinton say at a public speech? She said, well, this is great now because we at the State Department will not have to walk as far to get our orders to understand where we should be going. And Mrs. Hillary Clinton was telling you right then and there, my friends, that she, as Secretary of State, was not taking her marching orders from the supposed elected people that you think you put into office. She was taking her marching orders from the Council on Foreign Relations, who is an entity of the international bankers. So understand, my friends, why they do not want Donald Trump. I am not promoting Donald Trump. I am just telling you, you should not be confused that the Republican Party is doing all it can to stop the endorsement of Donald Trump. It comes down to one factor. They cannot control him, and he is not afraid to expose them. And this is the reason why the bankers are, just like they did with Ron Paul. You think about that. A sitting U.S. congressman had overwhelming support for 16 terms. What'd they do? They put someone against him every time. Every single time. You think they would have been joyous? They could have taken some funds and put it elsewhere where they didn't have such great support. No, 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 no. They wanted Ron Paul out. They couldn't get him out because the people of his district, number one, were educated, and that's what they're really afraid of, my friends. This all comes down to one thing. They're afraid of you becoming educated. They're afraid of you not participating in the demise of our nation. They're afraid of you of wakening up. They're afraid of you of organizing as one and saying, we will no longer participate in the raping of our country. They're afraid that you will become knowledgeable. They're afraid, just like Zbigniew Brzezinski said 2.5 years ago at the Trilateralist Commission up in Ottawa, Canada, when he said that there is a political awakening taking place in the world as the world has never witnessed in its history. That's what they're afraid of, and that's what they don't want Donald Trump to be the forerunner of. Do I trust Donald Trump 100%? Personally, absolutely not. I don't trust anybody 100%, especially one who's running for big office like that. But I will tell you, some of the things that he has spoken of, I am very, very impressed with. And I do have an understanding why the Republican Party does not want Donald Trump. And the other end of that equation is, my friends, the Democrats don't want Bernie in. They're not going to let Bernie in. Come on, he signed off on Glass-Steagall. He signed off on audit the Fed. He was one of the legislators that actually wrote a bill demanding that we find out where the $28.3 trillion went that we gave to them in 2008. He was one of the few people to actually not just sign off on it, but to draft the legislation. The bankers aren't going to let Bernie in. And Bernie's getting a hard lesson how the game's really played right now. Let us continue. I think what we need to do, my friends, is I got to say the statement again by Hunter S. Thompson. It's just phenomenal. The problem in any democracy is that crowd pleasers are generally brainless swine who can go on a stage and whoop up their supporters into an orgastic frenzy, then go back to the office and sell everyone of the poor bastards down the tube for a nickel apiece. Hunter S. Thompson. Okay, this is, I'm going to read this article real quick. This is politics is not about Republicans or Democrats. My friends, the Republicans and Democrat, that whole setup is nothing but one of the many divide paradigms that the bankers use against us. You know, you ever notice like people who put political placards on their lawns or on their cars? They're always one way. They're always either Democrat or Republican. They're not like by the candidate. That's because those people are completely confused and absolved to the divine paradigm. And understand the ignorance of this. When you see someone who's got nothing but Democratic or nothing but Republican bumper stickers or placards on their yards, they're not looking at individual issues and individual candidates. They're looking at the divide paradigm. And they're either part of the divide paradigm to one sway or the other. But that's all they're about. And that's where the bankers want to keep you. Do you remember that statement that we read to you from Carol Quigley some years ago about the scheme of giving them the facade of giving the American people what they believe to be a choice so they can vote the bums out? Remember we read that to you some years ago? That's what I'm talking about. Has there been any real change? Let's just take the last 4 presidencies. 2 Bushes, Clinton and Obama. Okay? Democrat, Republican. Has there been any difference whatsoever in the direction that these 2 supposed abstract entities have taken our nation? Has there? No. The debt money system or lack of money system hasn't changed. The military encroachment hasn't changed. The domestic security forces being built hasn't changed. Your loss of liberties hasn't changed. Your taxes haven't gone down. Your regulations haven't been reduced. What's changed? Nothing. So you thought you had the options of vote the bums out, but it's been the same path, my friends. And that is exactly where they want you. They want you in that box, in that cage of the divide paradigm. Start looking at individual issues and individual candidates. Get out of that divide paradigm. Okay, let us continue with this article. It's not about Republicans or Democrats, and nor is it about health care, abortion, higher taxes, free college tuition, or any other of the buzzwords that have become campaign slogans for individuals who have mastered the art of telling Americans exactly what they want to hear. Politics today is about one thing and one thing only. And this, I agree with this statement. Maintaining the status quo between the controllers, the politicians, the bureaucrats, the corporate elite, and the controlled. That's you, the taxpayer. That's what this is all about. Politics today is not about one thing and one thing only. It is about maintaining the status quo between the controllers and the controlled. They are the controllers. You are controlled. Hillary will not save the nation. Nor will Bernie, Trump, Rubio, or Cruz. The only ones, and I agree with that, the only ones who can save the nation are we the people. And yet the American people remain eager to be persuaded that a new president in the White House can solve the problems that plague us. No matter who wins the next presidential election, you can rest assured that the new boss will be the same as the old boss, and we, the permanent underclass here in America, will continue to be forced to march in lockstep with the police state in all matters, public and private. Then he gets into one of his book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People. It doesn't really matter what you call them, the 1%, the elite, the controllers, the masterminds, the shadow government, the police state, the surveillance state, the military-industrial complex. So long as you understand that no matter which party occupies the White House in 2017, the unelected bureaucracy that actually calls the shots will continue to do so. Now let's get into some facts here. According to a scientific study by Princeton researchers, the United States of America is not the democracy that it purports to be, but rather it is an oligarchy in which, and I'm quoting from this study, and we read this study to you, I remember this, in which economic elites and organized groups presenting business interests have substantially independent impacts on U.S. government policy. Folks, if it's like Amschel Rothschild said, give me control of a nation's currency, I care not who makes its laws. Do we as a people, as an electorate, have control of our money system? Absolutely not. Who does? The international bankers that send your children off to war for their booty, to protect their interest. You know, I was thinking this morning, because I grew up in the Vietnam era, and I spent time just post-Vietnam in Cambodia as a Marine. And I will tell you, I was thinking about that this morning, and I found it rather interesting, and I've had this thought many times before, that we fought in Vietnam for 15 years, murdered millions of people, decimated all of Southeast Asia. We didn't lose the war militarily. We actually kicked butt militarily, but we lost the war politically because the war was never meant to be won in the first place. We, the United States, were supplementing the NVA and the Viet Cong. And we've done shows on that, just like we supplemented the Nazis through financing, through Ford Motor Company, through IBM, the rest of them. But we went to Vietnam, supposedly, by the way, on a facade that the USS Maddox was attacked on August 4th, when we know historically fact-proven statements that it was not. Yet we supposedly lost that war, and all them guys and some gals were fighting for the same reason that guys and gals are fighting today, to protect your freedoms. Well, we lost the Vietnam War, Did the Vietnamese come here and take our nation over? We've lost our freedoms, but did we lose our freedoms to the Vietnamese? No. We were never fighting about freedom. We have not fought, my friends, about freedom since the Civil War. Every war since then has been about booty. And booty, I know you know from watching this program, is a legal term. Profits from conquest. That's what booty is. 1898, we blew up the USS Maine, and I don't want to get into all this, I've done it before, but we blew up the USS Maine. Why? To get the people behind the Spanish-American War, so we can go and get all these different enclaves we now have. World War I, Lusitania. And we've got into all this. World War II, Pearl Harbor. We cracked the Purple Code months before. We knew when they were coming. We actually transferred Battleship Row from San Diego to Hawaii so they would have the cannon fire that was needed to get the American people into the war. Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Yemen, now Syria. You know, it was interesting, I was during my illness about all the banks that the Rothschilds control and own in the world. And two banks really stood out to me. Actually, there was three banks before that really stood out to me that the Rothschilds did not control. Bank of Libya, Bank of Iran, Bank of Syria. And all three of them countries were either going to extinguish the act of taking American ain't American. The Federal Reserve note the petrodollar for their oil, or they were going to go to a gold-backed currency, or as Hussein was going to do in Iraq, he was going to develop the deny based on a barrel of International Unit of Oil, as we've spoken to you many times. My friends, this is why your sons and daughters are wearing pretty little uniforms to go there. This is why we have given Al-Qaeda into Iraq and Benghazi. This is why Hillary Clinton will be your next president, as I said to you about 8 to 10 months ago. I don't make predictions on this show, but I understand who's in control. And I will tell you right now, as I said 8 months ago, Hillary Clinton will probably be your next president because the controllers do not want, if he is honorable, a Donald Trump. They can't control him for the reasons I said in the beginning of this broadcast. So understand the game is being played. Okay, let us continue. Fact, despite the fact that number of violent crimes in the country is down substantially, the lowest rate in over 40 years, the number of Americans being jailed for nonviolent crimes, such as driving with a suspended license, is skyrocketing. You're damn right it is. The United States, not per capita, straight numbers, incarcerates more people than any other country. It used to be per capita. Now it's just straight out numbers. Private prisons are businesses. Businesses have quotas, and you will fill them quotas. That's what it's about. Every one of these prisons are private prisons, have quotas. Before they agreed to finance the projects, they were guaranteed quotas of prisoners to substantiate profit. That's what your Just Us system is about. Hillary Clinton, over 1,800 pages now, confirmed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that were over 1,800 that were top secret on her private email account. You and I would be in prison forever and a day. She hasn't even been charged because she's protected by the Just Us system. But if you don't cross your T's and dot your I's on every corporation/government form that they demand you fill out, you will lose everything and you will lose your freedom and you will be one of the fulfillers of them quotas of these private prisons. That's what the system's about. That's what they're afraid of you awakening to. Thanks to an abundance of over 4,500 plus federal crimes and over 400,000 plus rules and regulations, it is estimated that the average American actually commits 3 felonies a day without actually knowing it. In fact, according to law professor John Baker, there is no one in the United States over the age of 18 who cannot be indicted for some federal crime. And this is not an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. You got to understand, my friends, the more corrupt, and history shows us, the more corrupt a government becomes, the more rules and the more encompassing and the more encroaching it has to become on the people. The people must live in a state of fear because of the level of corruption. When we started this country, there was basically 4 felonies. 4. The government wasn't corrupted. Now we have over 400,000. And them rules are not met for you. For them. The rules are met for us, the little people. Okay. I don't have the time to continue with that. So I want to get into something very big that was announced. And I may not have the time to do all of that either. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about something that the international bankers are really not going to be happy about. And if I could find this real quick, if I can't, I will just give you a brief synopsis of it. Basically, what's going on, I'm not going to read the whole article, my friends, just for the sake of time. But basically, what's going on behind the scenes, and I have my suspicion that this is why Heinz, you know him as Henry, but his real name is Heinz. Heinz Kissinger met for 3.5 hours with Vladimir Putin, as we discussed with you, in private. No aides, no recording, nothing. In private. There was a reason for that. And I think from the statement that Putin made yesterday, number one, have figured out, one, what the main subject matter was about, and number two, what the warning was about. Now, you got to think of this. Heinz Kissinger has been out of politics for many, many decades. He has no official position and or standing with the United States government. Why is he sitting down with the leader of Russia for 3.5 hours by himself, one-on-one, with no recordings? Because Heinz Kissinger has from day one worked for the international bankers. It's not by happen chance, my friends, that we left thousands and thousands of prisoners in Vietnam, never to be accounted for. It's not by chance that Heinz Kissinger's associates was the main supporter, actually gave him his first job, of Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro. It's not by happen chance that the same individual, who we really don't know who he is, we're not really sure where he was born. We know the state of Hawaii has come out and said the birth certificate is fraudulent. We know his grandmother and his mother both said he was born in Kenya. We know that his his student loan records have him living in Indonesia. But we really don't know a lot about him. He wasn't even a full-term senator from Illinois. His qualifier to the American people was, he's a good community organizer. And he got elected president, CEO of the Insolvent Corporation USA, Inc. And all of that was done by Henry Kissinger and Associates. Now, Henry Kissinger is supposed to be this big, conservative, right-wing monster. What's he doing? Financing, implementing, and facilitating the election of the supposed highest office in the land to an extreme left-wing Marxist. Doesn't make sense to you, does it? It makes perfect sense to you, my friends, once you understand, number one, who's really in control, number two, what the end game is, and number three, that is nothing but pure divide paradigm, Republican, Democrat, left or right. And they have got the American people completely encompassed and surrounded with it. So, you have to ask yourself, why are they treating Bernie Sanders the way they did? As I said to you, because of the reasons. He has stood up against the international bankers. But the interesting thing about this rise of Bernie and the rise of Trump is this. They both are not establishment people. What we are witnessing, my friends, is the formation and the beginning of a political uprising in this country against the establishment. And that's the only good that I'm personally taking out of this election process so far, is that you are starting, you haven't quite gotten off the couch yet. Even though your children are enslaved, their future is incompleted and swamped in debt, they don't have any true money, the intrinsic value has been gone, they've been lied to, they're maiming their bodies and murdering millions for the profits of bankers. Their indoctrination centers that you call education centers are not educating them, they're indoctrinating them. The vaccines are making them sick and poisoning them. They don't own anything, and their future is rather bleak because you haven't got off the couch, but at least you're starting to get upset. So why is it that they don't want Bernie? Because they didn't go with the bankers. Can they control Bernie? Absolutely. They can control his purse strings. They can control a lot of things about Bernie. Trump, they're having a more difficult time with. But the thing that Bernie represents to the left, if you would, is that he is not an establishment guy. And he has fought the bankers. As I said in the beginning of the show, I give him much credit for that. Another person who, as you know from watching this program, I am highly, highly respected of is Paul Craig Roberts. And last week I wanted to read an article to you from him, and I thought it would be, it's important that I read this to you, so I want to start here, and then I want to get into Putin's big announcement yesterday, because this is rather touches on it. This is Paul Craig Roberts, former Secretary of the Treasury, Undersecretary of Treasury during the Reagan administration. You know he would not take the Secretary of the Treasury position? He would only accept the Undersecretary. And do you know the reason why? If you've been watching this program, you know why. Because if you're the Attorney General and or the Secretary of State for the insolvent corporation USA, Inc., you are paid by the International Monetary Fund, not from the general budget of the Treasury of the United States. So think about that. They have control, the Attorney General controls all the domestic security forces and the court system, the Just Us system. Secretary of Treasury is the liaison as the debtor organization to the creditor organization. Obviously, we're the debtor. That's why he wouldn't take the position, even though Ronald Reagan wanted him to. Very brilliant man. As I've said to you before, his credentials are, I could sit here for the rest of the time of the program and read them. But let's read what he had to say. There aren't many scholars who have been on the inside of the highest halls of power and have the keen intellect to be able to dissect and explain the political and economic situation as it exists today. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is one of those individuals. Roberts served as Ronald Reagan as the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy, the Associate Editor of the Wall Street Journal, and a columnist from the Business Weekly and Scrapes Howard News Service. Folks, I'm not going to read all that because it'd take me 15 minutes to continue this. His credentials are impeccable. American Free Press did this interview with him. 45-minute interview. AFP has asked what his duties were under Reagan. This is his answer. I was the front man in the president's government to get his economic plan out of the Treasury, out of the Council of Economic Advisors, and out of the office of OMB, and also out of the Chief of Staff of the White House so that Congress could vote on it. The significant impact Roberts had, continues to have, an economic policy in the United States and the world cannot be stressed enough. He had to play politics and would go up against those not willing to support Reagan's economic plan, like White House Chief of Staff James Baker, CFR, by the way, OMB Director Stockman, CFR, by the way, Paul Volcker's Federal Reserve, boy, talk about beyond just CFR, and the rest of Wall Street being the bankers, as well as the CIA. Now think about this. First of all, understand that in 1980, just like the dirty games that are going on now against Bernie, Reagan, they had a lot of dirty games against Reagan. And Reagan did not want George Bush to be his vice president. But there was such a landslide of votes that they really couldn't pull off the sleight of hand game they wanted to. So they made a deal with Reagan, and Reagan admitted this later on in life that, yeah, okay, I'll accept George W. Bush as my vice president. Of course, less than 100 days later, he gets shot by Hinckley, but he survives the assassination attempt. Makes you wonder about that. And did you know that Hinckley and the Bush family were very close? Yeah, you look that up. Anyway, this is Roberts. I succeeded and got the program out of the administration and into the Congress where it passed. This is how, as Roberts explains, supply-side economics became the policy instead of post-World War II Keynesian demand management. Supply-side economic theory argues that the economic growth can be most effective by creating and investing in capital and by lowering barriers in the production of goods and services. Keynesian economic theory argues that the economic output is strongly influenced by the total spending in the economy. Keynesian economics, my friends, that's what we're under. And we have done the whole 2 shows on Keynesian economics. And do you remember that statement about in the book Consequence of Peace, how John Keynes actually wrote about how they could extract the wealth, how the government could extract the wealth from its citizens, its being possession of its citizens. And we did a fascinating show on that, and I know we had a lot of positive comments about it. Let us continue. The CIA and the military security complex didn't want to end the Cold War. It was a profitable business. My friends, war is one of the most profitable engagements that these bankers have. It not only does it make them profits beyond their wildest imaginations, but it also rallies the people in ignorance, and it keeps the people's anger off of domestic issues and funnels and directs that anger of the people to foreign issues. And that's what I'm afraid is it makes the political awakening that's going on in this country, along with the economic downturn, such a probable case that they are going to send us. Yeah, we've been at war since 1991. I understand that. Of course, we haven't declared war since December 8th, 1941, per the United States Constitution. But I am afraid, my friends, because this whole thing is collapsing. And that's what Unconventional Warfare Exercise 16 is about. I call it the Jade Helm 16 because now, okay, Jade Helm got everything in position. Everything militarily, logistically, is in position to shut down the United States of America. Now, UX-16, Unconventional Warfare Exercise 16, is about shutting down the highway system, shutting down the local government services and or controlling them. Folks, you read this document, they actually talk about all the main highways of the Eisenhower highway system being completely shut down in 6 hours. Now, I know a lot of you who watch this program locally live in the beautiful northern New England. And we have a lot of abilities to survive better than the people say where I come from, Providence, Rhode Island. So but a lot of people watch this program on the internet now, and we're very, very thankful for that. But if you're living in a city somewhere or suburbia somewhere, and most suburbia is linked to a hub of a city, understand that if you're not out in 6 hours and someplace to go that you're facilitated to prepare for your family, you're not going anywhere. They're going to shut it down. Secondary roads within 12 hours, according to this operation. So 6 hours main highways, secondary roads within 12 hours, all of it throughout the country going to be shut down. So if you only have 3 days worth of food and water, and if they decide to really get control of you and turn the electricity off, watch what happens then. It is very, very important, my friends, that you understand that they are leading us to World War III. And as Albert Pike said, the Third World War come to America. It is vitally important because that clock is ticking that you, number one, provide for your family, and you better be thinking a lot longer than 3 days. You better be thinking in terms of months. That's their plan. This isn't me saying this. I studied their white papers. You had better get in contact with people that you trust. And you'd better prepare yourselves. Do you remember we read to you when we first sent our agent provocateurs and kicked out the elected government of Ukraine, that statement from the neighborhood in the Ukraine, and forgive me, I forget the name of the neighborhood, the section of neighborhood. It might have been Donetsk. I think it was Donetsk. But anyway, that woman, how she talked about what they've been forced to do, how they're living as a community, and how by the force of guns and by the force of being starving, what they've had to do to survive. My friends, I'm not so sure that the fabric of our society, which is so deteriorated, has the ability to regain itself and maintain civility. I mean, look what happens in this country, my friends, when they turn the bloody electricity off. If there's a storm and the lights go off, well, it's time to rape and rampage. Imagine what happens when the welfare checks no longer come out. You'd better start thinking this way. This isn't Tom D'Ambra saying this is coming. This is the controllers of the controlled telling you in their own writing this is their plans. Can we stop it? I hope we can. And they're afraid of you educating yourselves. They're afraid of you awakening yourselves. They're afraid of you organizing yourselves. They're afraid of local law enforcement. They are afraid particularly of the sheriffs, because the sheriffs are the only truly lawful law enforcement in this country, my friends, because all of our law enforcement are supposed to be elected by you. And they are afraid of the local police, not the big city police. The local police, the local sheriffs, they are afraid of it in their own writings. Where was Lavoy Finnegan and the others going when they were ambushed and murdered? They were going to a constitutional sheriff who had over 400 people waiting for them. And now we find out that the judge that's handling this case is keeping them in secluded confinement. And when they go to, they finally got arraigned, finally got arraigned, and they show up in shackles and chains with no legal representation. And the judge says, I am not even going to give the availability to post bond because you're too dangerous to society. You will remain in prison. My friends, these people were attending churches. They were attending local grocery stores. They were speaking out. They were letting the local people there know what they were discovered about the Clinton Foundation, the BLM, and Uranium One, the deal that was made with the sub-parent Canadian company of the parent Uranium One Russian company. See, this is what it's about. Just like Harry Reid with the Chinese in Bunkersville, Nevada, with Cliven Bundy, who, by the way, now they've arrested. See, so you will keep your mouth shut. You will not question them. You will not do research on what kind of deals they have going on. You will not dare think about organizing yourselves and doing research, because the answers, my friends, will disturb you. I'm running out of time for Paul Craig Roberts again, but let me get to one point with this article, and I'm sorry I didn't get to this whole thing. But basically what he's talking about here, he gets down to the bottom here, is that according to Roberts, there is an imperial America, of which it came from the 21st century. This is the justification for invading countries on false pretenses. This is Paul Craig Roberts. This is the justification for invading countries on false pretenses. Slaughtering huge numbers of people, of innocent people. Producing huge numbers of refugees and displaced people. We've done this now to at least 7 countries recently. And it is this notion that we cannot accept any constraint on our will that has been thrown us into conflict now with China and Russia. But the problem is China and Russia are not Iraq and Libya, warned Roberts. These are powerful countries. They have powerful militaries, powerful nuclear forces. Trying to force a hegemony by destabilizing these kinds of countries is so reckless as to be unbelievable. But that is the foreign policy of these United States. It leads directly to nuclear confrontation, and of course, nobody wins. We don't have any money to pay Medicare or Social Security. And they've got this great arms race going again. It is the most serious situation in my lifetime. The Cold War was never as dangerous as what has been created now. Just incredible. The United States is showing the progression of a once free nation into a state of tyranny. The threat is a threat of nuclear war. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the neoconservatives said, hey, look, history has been chosen, America. They didn't choose the proletariat. They chose what they call democratic capitalism. It is neither democratic nor is this capitalist. But that's what they call it. It has chosen us to rule the world and to impose our system on everybody else, and this puts us all above all law. Law is what we say. It also puts us above the sovereignty of other nations. My friends, now we have all this. By the way, also in this article, Paul Craig Roberts agrees with something that I said to you months ago and 2 weeks ago, that basically our aircraft carriers, as he said it, are as obsolete as our battleships were in World War II. And I hope you went and looked up the USS Donald Cook, as I asked you to, in the Black Sea, and what one Russian plane did to one of our best modern destroyers in the fleet. So, what makes the world more dangerous now? Besides the technology, besides how far the controllers have come along into their game, into bringing us into an horrific World War III, because after we destroy ourselves, my friends, they're going to be the saving grace to you, you see. They're the ones that are going to say, look, we can't have nations anymore and nationalism, because look what happens. We keep having these wars. Of course, they don't tell you that it's the controllers that format and create the circumstances of these horrific wars. But they're going to have you come to them for the solution. And the SDR, special drawing right currency, is up and running. Matter of fact, you can trade any currency in the world right now on the open market and buy SDRs. And I guarantee you 99% of you have never even heard of the SDR. But guess what? You better, because that's what's going to be in your back pocket. Another facade, fiat, worthless piece of paper that you're going to be the co-surety of to the interest due on it. Just like your children are now. Unless Vladimir Putin gets his way. Yesterday, Vladimir Putin announced, and this is big, my friends, the development of a gold-backed currency. What happened to Libya, Iraq, not Afghanistan, the Sudan, Somalia, Venezuela, Libya, Iran, Syria, when all these countries announced they were either not going to accept the American dollar anymore, or they were going to accept other currencies, or they were going to have a value-based medium of exchange. Gold, Hussein's goal was to make it out of a international barrel of oil. My point being, my friends, this will be the end of the petrodollar, because what would you rather have in your pocket? And I don't care if it's based on 1%. I don't care if this gold-backed medium of exchange is based on 1% of gold backing. What would you rather have? Something in your pocket that you know you can at least go exchange some intrinsic value for, like gold or silver, or would you rather keep having these facade Federal Reserve notes that you are indebted to because you're the co-surer to the interest bond doing it, because they give the people or the Treasury, so-called Treasury, permission to print it? What would you rather have? A 1% backed gold currency, or a debt instrument that you're the co-surety of? What do you think the world would rather have? Think about it, my friends. This was what Henry Heinz Kissinger was talking to Putin about for 3.5 hours. I'm sure of it. Do I know this for reading the report? No, because there was no recordings made of this meeting. That's what it was about. And the consequence of this is going to be multiple-fold. One, it's going to be a complete collapse of what you know is the dollar. And if you've been watching this program, you know these are not dollars. These are Federal Reserve notes. The dollar is 25.8 grains of gold and a 51 ratio of silver, and you have neither. China, Russia, and India have been buying hundreds of tons of gold in 2015. Actually, Putin's been buying it heavily, and so hasn't China, since 2010, 2011. Heavily. How much gold do you think is in the United States? Nothing. Hell, when Germany wanted to even do an inventory on their gold, they found out that the bars were tungsten steel. They weren't even gold. What do you think is going to happen to the purchasing power of that facade dollar you have in your pocket when the whole world drops it and no longer puts it in circulation? It's all going to collapse. By the way, your purchasing power from 1913, when the bankers took over, to today is 2%. A loaf of bread was 5 cents. A loaf of bread today is $2. The bread hasn't changed, my friends. It's the purchasing power of that medium of exchange that has. You get it? You're about to lose the rest of the 2%. You know, during the Great Depression, there was over 2,300 what I call coupons that were established by communities throughout the United States. 2,300 of them. The only answer for the bankers with this, my friends, is force of hand to create new crisis so they can send your daughters and your sons to bleed to protect their petrodollar and charge you in the making to do it. And after they destroy the world, they will charge you and force you to rebuild their world that they will buy for pennies on the dollar. My friends, this is big. It's the biggest news of 2016, and of course there's more to talk about Judge Scalia. But I have run out of time. But understand what is at stake here. And Putin is not just going to announce this on a whim that this is what we're trying to do. This is a brilliant man. The mechanisms of this being developed, I'm sure, are done and completed. And I'm sure every single nation that is signed on to the BRICS will be joining this. You had better prepare yourselves. And if you can buy food, get good clean filtering for water, be able to defend yourselves and your family, you better start thinking in terms that it's not going to be automatic anymore, America, because it's not. And I have run out of time. I wish again to thank all you for watching this program, and I really thank you, everybody who got a hold of me, all the viewers, for your prayers and your support. And we close always asking you to seek truth, to obtain knowledge, to manifest kindness to your fellow man. And we always close in reminding you that your government is your responsibility. Thank you for viewing.
Read between the lines. Got to read between the lines. Well, the truth is very simple, very hard to find.